Today we're going to improvise this Moody-Sounding chord melody vamp on ukulele. Check it out. What's up everyone, it's Brett from Ukulele Tricks, a website that helps you become a better ukulele player. One of my favorite things to do is to kick back on the porch or on the sofa and improvise chord melody vamps just like the one I played for you. Don't get me wrong, it's really fun to take a few chords and strum a song, but there's so much fun to be had when you explore your instrument on a deeper level. In this video, I want to give you a framework for improvising a chord melody vamp just like this one, and I'm going to break this vamp into 3 parts. First, we're going to look at the harmony or the chords used. Then we're going to look at the strumming or picking technique used. And finally, we're going to look at how to layer in improvised melodies. Before I get into it real quick, I just want to let you know we're on the road right now to 100,000 subscribers here on the Ukulele Tricks channel. We're almost at 96, so we're getting close to that 100K goal. So I wanted to ask, if you at all enjoy my videos and lessons, please click that subscribe button. Your support means the world, and I can't thank you enough. Okay, let's get to it and learn this chord melody vamp. One of the reasons this vamp sounds so moody is because we use major 7th and dominant 7th chords. 7th chords instantly add that flavor or vibe to your chord progression. So we're going to learn these chords, and these chords are kind of like our home base for our improvisation, meaning that when you're not sure what to play, you're going to want to play these chords. Okay, the first chord is an F major 7th chord played up the fretboard. To play it, press or bar all 4 strings at the 5th fret, and then place your ring finger on the 7th fret of the bottom A string. If that bar chord is difficult for you, you might use the free middle finger to double up the bar by laying it on top of the index finger for added leverage, just like this. The next chord in the progression is a C major 7th chord. To play this chord, press your middle finger on the 2nd fret of the bottom A string and let the top 3 strings ring open. Then the third chord used is a G7 chord played in a fun variation where you place the middle finger on the 5th fret of the C string, index finger on the 3rd fret of the E string, and ring finger on the 5th fret of the bottom A string, letting that top string ring open. And finally, I like to throw in a standard F major chord into the progression, played where you place the middle finger on the 2nd fret of the top G string, index finger on the 1st fret of the E string, and let the other 2 strings ring open. That gives us 4 different chord variations that we can use to play our chord melody vamp. Now we're going to spice those chords up a bit by layering in melody, but for now work on practicing those positions. Okay, now let's move to learning how to strum or pick these chords. For this, we're going to use a really cool technique called the pinch strum. And I want to give a shout out to an amazing solo ukulele player named Kimo Hussey, who has popularized the strumming and picking technique in his teachings. He's also a co-author of one of the best Hawaiian songbooks out there, which I'll throw a link to in the description. Definitely go check him out and listen to his music. This pinch strum technique has a very soft and warm sound that is pleasing to the ears because it uses the flesh side of both the thumb and the index fingers. To perform the pinch strum, strum down across the strings with the flesh side of the thumb, like so. Then strum up across the strings with the flesh side of the index finger, like so. And for our pattern, we're going to alternate back and forth between strumming down and up, and we're going to count out loud to a count of 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and so on. That sounds like this played over a C major 7 chord. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 As you practice this, try to make each strum as even in tone and volume as possible. I recommend practicing this technique over each chord I presented to get a feel for this, and once you've done that, it's time to add in the melody. Alright, this is where things get really fun. My goal here is to give you a lot of ideas that you can use to improvise a vamp. Just remember that it does sound really cool and pleasing to the ear to just strum the pinch strum with these chord variations, so if that's as far as you get for now, then you're doing a really great job. But I know some of you want to dive deeper, so let's have some fun looking at a simple way to improvise melodies with these chords. So here's how we want to think about adding in a melodic component to our vamp. First, any melody we play is going to be played on the bottom A string, which is the highest pitched string on your ukulele. By placing melody notes on this bottom A string, the melody really stands out as the highest note in the chord. So that brings us to the question of what notes can even be played on this bottom A string. The chords found in this progression are in the key of C major, so that means we can play any notes in a C major scale along with our chords. Now, I don't want to get too deep into music theory for this video, but the goal for you today is to be able to identify the natural notes of the bottom A string. And by natural notes, I mean the first 7 letters of the alphabet. So A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Here's how those notes are played on the bottom A string. These notes are called natural notes because they don't have any sharps or flats. And if you don't know what that means just yet, don't sweat it. Just work on memorizing this pattern of notes on the bottom A string. Okay, so with that pattern, we're going to use any of these notes to improvise our melody. Now what's fun is that every chord position I showed you at the beginning of this video can be varied by changing the note in the chord that falls on the bottom A string to fit the scale pattern I just showed you. So let me show you what I mean. Let's take that F major 7 chord that looks like this. Now in this position for this chord, we have our bottom A string note played on the 7th fret of the bottom A string right here, right? And our bar's at this 5th fret, right? So in our bottom A string pattern though, we have these notes. So in this chord right here, we could potentially play the bottom A string at the 5th fret. And then also remember from that pattern, we can go up to the 8th fret. So this is the normal F major 7 chord I showed you. So we can modify it by playing the 5th fret of the bottom A string like this, or the 8th fret of the bottom A string. So you might just have fun practicing switching those bottom A string notes while maintaining that bar position just like that. And remember, this is all improvised, so we're just having fun, being creative, and really just seeing what sounds cool to our ears. So just mess around with that and see what you can come up with for that F major 7th position, barred at the 5th fret there. Cool, now let's take a look at the C major 7th position played down here. Now this is a cool position because we have these top 3 open strings. And so really any note played on the bottom A string in that natural note pattern can be layered in as we're playing that chord in the vamp. So again, mess around with that C major 7th chord and just take that bottom A string pattern and try out those different notes as you're playing that C major 7th chord. By the way, if you're enjoying this exploration of fingerpicking and chord melody, in a couple months I'm opening the doors again to my flagship course called Fingerpicking Tricks, where I teach you how to fingerpick the ukulele in 4 distinct styles, including pattern-based fingerpicking, arpeggio-based fingerstyle, melodic-based fingerstyle, and chord melody. So if that's something you might be interested in, click the link in the description and get on the waiting list, where I'll be sending out some free fingerpicking lessons in preparation for the launch of the course in the coming weeks. Okay, let's keep going and looking at these chords. The next chord we have is the G7 chord. So our G7 chord, you'll remember, was played like this. Now this is kind of a tricky chord because it spans 3 frets here, right? So our fingers are kind of stretched out, and we just have the little finger down here to fret notes on the bottom A string. So for this chord, I like to keep things kind of simple and just go with whatever notes I can reach with my little finger. And we remember in our bottom A string pattern for natural notes, we have. And so with my little finger in this G7 position, I can reach the 7th fret of the bottom A string. And if I really stretch, and you might be able to do this too, I can reach the 8th fret of the bottom A string. So that's another chord where you can mess around with the bottom A string notes, but just go with the notes that you can reach with that little finger. Don't try to push it too far. Okay, and then we have that last F major chord that I like to throw in toward the end of the progression. And for that F major chord, it's a pretty standard F major chord. And I like to go with the bottom A string melody notes that are within reach for my ring fingers and my little fingers, which would be the open bottom A string, or the 2nd fret of the bottom A string, or the 3rd fret of the bottom A string. So in that F position, so I'm playing the open bottom A string, 2nd fret, 3rd fret. So for each of these chords, dedicate some time to figuring out how you can change up the melody note of the chord on the bottom A string. Let your ear and creativity be your guide. There's no real structure to this other than what you want to create. For instance, I like to start off with the F major 7 chord. Then I like to switch to the C major 7 chord. Then I go back to the F major 7 chord. Then back to the C major 7. And then I like to throw in the G7 chord just to switch up the progression a little bit and break it up. And then I like to go to that F major chord position. From there, I would start that progression all over again. It really just depends on what I'm feeling and where my creativity leads me. So I encourage you to sit down with your ukulele and explore some of these ideas for yourself and just see where your creativity leads you. To me, this is one of the most fun ways to relax and play ukulele. Okay, so I just threw a lot of ideas at you, so let's quickly recap, and I want to give you some instructions on where to go from here. The first step is to get those chord variations under your fingertips. The second step is to practice the pinch strum pattern and to familiarize yourself with strumming that pattern while switching between the chords. Then the third step is to add in melody by modifying the bottom A string note in the chord position using any of the natural notes found in a C major scale. So like I said before, the goal here is to take these ideas and improvise your own chord melody vamp. So to do that, take out a pencil right now, write out a chord progression using these chords, and start to practice that chord progression. And then as you become comfortable, get creative with it, slowly start adding in little melodies alongside those chords. I'm giving you full permission to have fun with this and create whatever you want to create. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to drop me a line in the comments. Let me know what you think of this video, and if you enjoyed it, please hit that thumbs up button and all that good stuff. Okay, until next time, thanks for watching.